Welcome to the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. A former president of Guyana was released on bail after being charged with inciting racial hatred ahead of general elections. Barrett Jagdeo was not required to enter a plea at the Monday court hearing before a magistrate. He led Guyana from 1999 to 2011. The accusations against Jagdeo are linked to comments he allegedly made during campaigning for the political party he once led ahead of the May 11 general elections. The former president allegedly said Afro-Guyanese opposition activists were beating drums while urging citizens to throw out Coolie members of the People's Progressive Party, dominated by people of Indian descent like Jagdeo. Opposition lawyer Christopher Ram pursued the case against Jagdeo, who is due back in court in June for preliminary hearings. A multi-ethnic coalition led by retired Army General David Granger defeated incumbent President Donald Ramuta and his People's Progressive Party in the vote earlier this month in Guyana, a country of nearly 750,000 made up mainly of Indian and African descent. Granger has pledged to end the racial divisions that have long marked politics in the South American country. Caymanian Jeffrey Webb was among those arrested amid corruption allegations within FIFA, the world organization that governs world football. Webb, a vice president of the federation, was the most senior official taken into custody in a pre-dawn raid in Zurich, Switzerland. He is one of 14 people either arrested or indicted by United States authorities for alleged racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering conspiracies spanning 2 decades. U.S. Justice Department officials say they are all part of fraud to the tune of more than $150 million. Webb was in Zurich for FIFA meetings, where he was to be installed for a second term as president of CONCACAF, the confederation that runs the sport in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. He was one of the officials ushered away from a luxury hotel by Swiss authorities early Wednesday, May 27. Meanwhile, Jack Warner was released on a Trinidad and Tobago $2.5 million bail after he appeared in a magistrate court with respect to a request by the United States for him to be extradited to face several charges in a New York court. Warner, the former FIFA vice president who appeared before Chief Magistrate Marcia Ayers Caesar, has been ordered to surrender all his travel documents and will reappear in court on July 9. He faces 12 charges of racketeering, wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering offenses in the U.S. Warner, who quit international football in 2011, has maintained his innocence and is now being processed for his appearance before a local magistrate's court. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, speaking in Parliament, confirmed that the extradition request had been made. Bissessar said it gives her no pleasure, as the member is a member of the Honourable House, and the matter is now in the hands of law enforcement officials and judicial officials for due process, according to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. Barbados aviation authorities say they have taken note of the increasing use of drones on the island. Director of Civil Aviation Kingsley Nelson said the use of remotely piloted aircraft systems present some security, privacy, and safety concerns. But he said there are safety and security guidelines which currently exist to regulate the use of drones, and that guidelines and processes for importation and use of these unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs were currently being reviewed. A Barbados government statement said several government agencies are examining the issues posed by the use of these vehicles. And finally, in this week's Caribbean News segment, the Dominica government says it is in discussions with the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, for the establishment of a national health insurance scheme. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, speaking in Parliament on Wednesday night, said several citizens had become broke because of health problems within the family. He said it is expensive whether you are a working person or unemployed. Healthcare, he says, in this world today is becoming prohibitive, and this is why Dominica is in discussions with PAHO to examine different options for a national health insurance scheme. Skerrit told legislators that his administration is ensuring that the people who are unable to have a health program policy themselves would be covered by the proposed initiative. For the JTV Caribbean News, I'm Sean Rose.
And coming up next on JTV News, Education Minister Myron Walwyn calls VIP at-large candidate Irene Penn O'Neill for inciting violence against members of the NDP, while opposition leader Ralph O'Neill calls for civility among politicians. And former magistrate Charmaine Rosen Bunbury, for the first time since entering the political arena, addressed her interdiction. You will hear her comments about sex politics.